Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. For more than 45 years, Manitoba Hydro has been allowed to operate the Churchill River Diversion on an interim license that has been renewed every year, even when Hydro was breaking it. The impact on fisheries and the environment has been devastating. Indigenous communities in northern Manitoba have often paid a terrible price for projects that have enriched southern Manitobans. I table virtually an open letter from Tatasqueyak Cree Nation and Opin Napiwan Cree Nation, which says, quote, "We oppose issuance of a final license for the Churchill River Diversion because Manitoba and Manitoba Hydro have not honored their obligations to us," end quote. Will this government hold off on a final license and an interim license renewal until Hydro commits to doing right, working in partnership to undo the harm that they have done?
The Honourable First Minister.
Member claps. It was an NDP government that did the harm. So that's good he's clapping, because he's acknowledging the record of the previous NDP government that did not adequately consult and work with First Nations and Indigenous leadership in terms of the planning and the implementation of these types of projects. That being said, this consultation process has gone on since 2009. And so what the member is asking for is something that I think we have to also consider on the other side of it, needs to be considered in a respectful sense for all parties. We need to have agreements and discussions that lead somewhere at some point. We're trying to get an outlet built to protect communities in the Interlake area that were flooded out. The whole communities have been rebuilt, but the fact of the matter is we need to prevent future such events from occurring. That process has gone on now for almost 10 years. Previous NDP government began it, we're continuing it, but we need cooperation on both sides. Reconciliation has to be a two-way street that benefits all of us and protects all of us going forward.
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Hydro has been operating outside their interim license for decades without being held to account. A final license has been described by the communities as a license to destroy because Hydro wants to maintain the status quo that is destroying waterways for which they never had permission. Islands, forests, and fisheries are being washed away by Hydro's decision to flood South Indian Lake at a whim. Hydro needs to clean up its act, but it will not do it on its own. This is a government decision. So whether Hydro gets to ignore its obligations or not, we have an opportunity to fix a historic wrong by requiring that Hydro works in partnership with First Nations to undo the harm that has been done. Will the Premier do the right thing, or will these communities be stuck with more decades of status quo because their livelihood depends on it?
The Honourable First Minister.
Yeah, I appreciate the member very much. I appreciate the member raising the issue because Bill 35 is part of the solution. Bill 35 is designed to make the Public Utilities Board respected and to make Manitoba Hydro more accountable to it on a systematic, logical, and reasonable basis. So that what the previous government did, for example, with respect to kiosk, pushing that project forward, while not respecting the need to even consult with the Public Utilities Board, spending $1 billion plus without permission and indebting Manitobans for generations can never happen again. And the consequences to the communities of that area are real as well. And so the reality here is, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that we need a process like the one we are legislating that will make this more transparent, that will bring the operations of Manitoba Hydro into the light and out of the NDP darkness of the past.
Order. The Honourable Member for River Heights on a final supplementary question.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the historically crystal clear waters of southern Indian Lake.
Order. I just want to, if the member for River Heights can put on his video.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Honourable Member for River Heights.
Yeah, the historically crystal clear waters of southern Indian Lake, Manitoba's fourth largest lake, are cloudy and turbid from extensive erosion. The whitefish which once flourished there are few. The sturgeon downstream are almost extinct. These horrific changes were caused by actions of the NDP 45 years ago, which were never mitigated. The whitefish fishery, which sustained 140 fishers and their families, is gone through no fault of theirs. I ask, will the Premier make changes in the operation of the Churchill River Diversion and put in a fish ladder at Missy Falls to help improve life for the fish and for the people of Opipipnaupiwin and Tatasqueyak Cree Nation?
The Honourable First Minister.
Well, I appreciate the member's passion, if not his pronunciation, but I have to say that this is these are debates that have been ongoing for a significant number of years. The member is expecting me to resolve them at this very instant. I don't think that that would be a fair assumption. I can only say to him that I think all of us should desire a process that's more transparent and that effectively protects the involved parties and reaches a resolution in a reasonable period of time. What we're trying to do, of course, with the project in the Interlake is create an outlet that will protect communities throughout that region that have suffered disproportionately for many, many years through inaction on the part of many governments for previous half-century plus. And so I would encourage the member to get behind encouraging his colleagues federally to let us resolve this issue as Manitobans in the best interests of all Manitobans.